do you ever find yourself lost in a week where you just go, where did the time go? Where did I wanted to accomplish all these things? Where did the time go? That lack of focus, because it's almost always a lack of focus, comes from not looking at your compass setting. Now, in yesterday's video, I promised that I think I stated that I'd look at giving you a video on some practical tips on how to focus on your goals. And I'm gonna share a couple of things that I do. Okay, so one is called reverse engineering. Reverse engineering your goals is one of the most important skills I've learned to growing my business and my life and my relationships and everything else. I've got 9 major areas of goals, and again, maybe some other time I'll talk about that, but I'm sure I will. But out of these 9 major areas of major life areas, and I'm going to give you a few here. So make sure that rest is one of those major areas. And this is not talking about huge holidays necessarily. It can be, but it could also be simply every day taking a few minutes to be, to simply to kind of focus yourself and ground yourself so that you're ready for the next task, so you can go forward with a lot of energy rather than all the stress from the last task. Okay, so there's rest, there's relationships, both intimate relationships as well as family, as well as friends and community relationships. Okay, there's business, and business can be networking and marketing and sales, but it also can be finances in different ways. Then there's and doing what you're passionate about. Then there's finances in general, investments. What are you doing with your money? Are you taking care of yourself for the future? There are so many areas of life. There's physical health. There's emotional and spiritual health and mental health. And start looking at all these different areas and start asking yourself, what do I want in these areas in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years? I've often gone way out, like 10-year goals, 15, at times I had 20-year goals. Now I'm catching up to them. I've got about 10-year goals now, those same goals. But what I want you to do is I want you to write them out on a piece of paper, just some things. One really good activity to do is look at your different areas of life and ask yourself, what do I want? And write down 30, 40, 50 things that you want. These are things that you want to have, material possessions. These are things that you want to do, experiences that you want, as well as who you want to become. Once you start to understand that, again, I want to be 170 pounds and physically fit and active and have this much money so I can invest, and maybe it's a net worth, whatever it is, a certain amount of properties. Once you start to set these down, then what I want you to do is look at your 1 year. And say, within the next year, within the next 12 months, what could I do in at least one thing in each of these areas that will bring me closer to my ideal relationships, that will grow my business? When you do this, so it's going to take a while. I often take a weekend. Every quarter, I kind of review this, okay? Once you do this, and it can take a few hours, it's worth it. Then what I do is I ask myself this quarter, this month, what can I do this month that will help me get to complete that year-long plan? Okay, so I'm going to give you a really practical example, okay? Let's say I want to own a bunch of real estate properties. Well, if I want to own, I don't know, a huge building, or maybe I want to own 10 multi-unit buildings, then what I'm going to do is say, this year I want to purchase 2. Okay, this year I want to purchase 2. If I purchase 2, it's going to get me to my goal in 5 or 10 years. Then what I can do is I can break it down. This month, what do I do? What can I do this month that will help me buy those 2 properties? And maybe this month, it's not about looking at properties. Maybe this month, it's about developing relationships with people. It's about taking a course. It's about learning something, growing something, so that I can purchase those 2 properties. And then what I can ask myself is, this week, what could I do that will help me get me closer to my goals? So for example, I could do, with this real estate example, I could say, well, this week what I'm going to do is I'm going to research what the best program is out there and budget and plan, set aside some funds so that I can purchase the course. Or maybe say this week I'm going to research and purchase the course, whatever that is, okay? Once you've got that, I want you to set it up on your calendar. I'm not going to show you right now, but on my door here, I've got every week I've written down all the things that I want to accomplish this week in my schedule this week. And it's always in front of me. When it's always in front of me, guess what happens? That's my compass. When it's always in front of me, I'm looking at it constantly and going, oh yeah, this is what I need to do. There's things that get me off track, whether it's like YouTube when I'm researching something or growing in some way, or emails or call, whatever it is. We can get distracted easily. And when we've got this, put it in a blatant place, then we're always looking at that helps. I'm going to tell you another thing that I do. When I've got my goal, I visualize it, and I look at what I want in 10 years. So again, that used to be 20 years from now. Now it's 10 years from now. I constantly am engaging with it emotionally. And this is, if you ever read Think and Grow Rich, this is what he teaches, Napoleon Hill teaches. Basically, he's saying, make sure that you're focusing on what you really want. And if you're focusing on engaging with specificity, make sure it's specific. I'm going to be, so for example, I'm sitting, for myself, I'm sitting on a veranda in France, in the French Alps, with a tea in my hand, a vest because it's chilly, it's spring, I can smell the flowers, it's early in the morning, the sun's coming up, I can visualize all this stuff. Because I can visualize this consistently, it's consistently pulling me towards that, and I'm asking myself, what do I need to do to get there? What do I need to do to get there? What do I need to do to get there? That's your compass setting. You can do this in a variety of ways. Maybe I'll give you a few more tips right now. So what I'd encourage you to do is visualize this, write it down. Specifically, what this looks like. What does your day look like? How does it feel to have accomplished the things you've accomplished? What are your relationships like? What is your physical health like? What does it feel like to hike or do whatever with your body that's in pain right now? Okay, visualize that. You can write it down. Then what you can do is write it down every day. Or read it every day. Or visualize it every day. Do this at least once. My suggestion is to do it twice. When you're doing this constantly, what it's doing is actually brainwashing you in a very good way. It's teaching you to think about these things. It's teaching you to focus on these. So instead of focusing on McDonald's or on some vehicle or something that other people are putting into your head, Facebook, instead of doing those things, you're now focusing on what you want to focus on. And that will influence you better. You want to be influenced by what you want rather than what the world wants from you, okay? Enjoy this process.